Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. What is going on? Thank you very much for tuning in. 8 a.m. I tried getting at 7:59. I think I was like a couple seconds short. Couple seconds short. Tried kind of giving a little bit of OT today. A little bit of OT. Good morning to everybody. Monday morning, December 2nd, 8 a.m. on the dot. Damn, we're already in December. How the hell are we already in December? Hopefully, everybody had a fantastic, long Thanksgiving weekend, enjoyed time with family, enjoyed some good spread, some good food. What everybody have? You had Thursday off. You probably had Friday off. You certainly had Saturday and Sunday off. So 4 straight days, and then you're here hanging out on a Monday morning. So thank you very much for being here. We got so much to get into. Why do we got so much to get into? Is because 4 days have gone by. All right, yeah, maybe I did a post-game show, Lakers post-game show. What was that? On Friday night, and then a Lakers post-game show on Sunday. So maybe I had work while you guys just sat there and did nothing. Nonetheless, we got a lot to hit on. Obviously, if you guys can see here to my right, my left, we want to spend some time talking about the Lakers through the first 20 games. So we hit the quarter mark. The quarter mark of the season is now officially done. Lakers through the first 20 games. I want to get everybody's kind of assessment on it. I got some good. I got some bad. So we'll get into that. I'm going to just go back here real quick for a second. We'll talk about last night's game against the Jazz. Not much, but my guy, Will Hardy, coach of the Utah Jazz, finally explained what he was doing. I didn't get a chance to hear it during the post-game show, but him calling that final timeout. Lakers got the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. Spent a little time on what happened to that team. Here's a squad that was in the Western Conference Finals. You thought everything was looking great, and then things start, I don't know, they're very average all of a sudden. Now, that doesn't mean Lakers will beat them tonight, but they're all of a sudden very average. Tommy Edman over the weekend, or maybe it was before the weekend. I can't remember. It's Thursday, Friday, whatever day it was. His extension with the Dodgers. The reason why I want that to be a conversation and a topic, because as much as people bitch and complain about the Dodgers, myself included, put me on that list, please. That's a perfect example of a signing that I think most people don't pay attention to, that every other Major League Baseball team could have made. They could have made a run or traded for Tommy Edman. They did it. Those are the little things that the Dodgers do on top of everything else that they do. We'll talk some USC football. They got some real issues, some real problems. Teams or players that are decommitting to USC, they finished their season out 6-6. We'll talk a little NFL. Then we got the weekend recap, and that is how we're going to get our Monday morning started. Cheers to you. Good morning to you. Whatever you're drinking, coffee, tea. Did a cup of coffee. Now I'm on the tea. Got the quote from today. Quote, again, this is the same tea bag that I was using before. Laughter is the same in all languages. Laughter is the same in all languages. Okay, very positive start here. Very positive. Everybody's looking for some positivity. Laughter is the same in all languages. Let me look at a couple of your comments here, and then we'll get the show started. Good morning, Slee. Good morning to you. Happy Hardy Monday. I'm with everybody there. Keeping your spot warm here at Kennedy Rec. Don't make me get down there this morning. What time? What time? Kennedy used to open at 2. Kennedy Rec Center used to open at 2. I'll get down there at 1:30 and just start stretching because I need about a half hour to stretch. Good morning, everybody. All right. Damn, Slee. Can't stop looking at your Thanksgiving spread. All right, let's, towards the end here, I'll get into a little bit of what that spread was like, the Middle Eastern spread. Somebody's saying there's no steam. There's steam right here, my brother. There's steam right here with my tea. I'm going to burn my face off if I try to take a sip of it. So let's do that and let's get started. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. As you guys know, this is where I am now 100% independently on YouTube. Greatly appreciate if you guys don't mind subscribing to the channel as we get the show started. Lakers are 12-8 through the first 20 games of the season. 12-8. All right, 12-8. Gotta be honest with you. If before the season started, they got to win yesterday against the Utah Jazz. Escaped against Utah. Did not look good, by the way. There were moments. I think they were up 8 or 9 with 5-6 minutes left, something along those lines. And that lead evaporated before you even know what the hell happened. They won the game. It ran their record to 12-8. They got a second of a back-to-back tonight against Minnesota. But I just want to focus real quick on the first 20 games of the Lakers season. It's the quarter mark. So when you think of in the NBA, there's usually I think certain games that you get to, certain meters that you get to, where you can start looking at your team and have a pretty good idea of what they are. I think the first 20 games is the first time you could look at your squad and actually say, I have a pretty good idea what the Lakers are. I have a pretty good idea what the Minnesota Timberwolves are at this point. I have a pretty good idea what the Oklahoma City Thunder are, or the Boston Celtics, or the Cleveland Cavaliers. Most teams out there, you got that first milestone that you get to is the first 20 games. 25% of the season, a quarter of the season is now done. Lakers are sitting at 12-8. They're number 6 in the Western Conference. I was mentioning this last night in the post-game show, and I knew this morning I was going to be talking about this, and I was going to spend a little bit more time on it. But if you'd have told me, and I think for most Laker fans out there, if you would have said 12-8 through the first 20, number 6 in the Western Conference, I didn't tell you anything else. I just said 12-8 through the first 20, number 6 in the Western Conference. I don't know many Laker fans that would have said, not good enough. I don't. And I don't think there'd be many Laker fans that would say not good enough for multiple reasons. You had a lot of question marks coming into the season. All right, Lakers really didn't make any trades. They didn't make any moves in the offseason. The only player that, we're talking about is Dalton Knecht being drafted at number 17. Okay, yeah, but he's a rookie. How long is it going to take for this guy to be able to put his fingerprints on this Lakers roster? It might take 2, 3, 4 years. I mean, hell, what was it? Jalen Hood-Schifino went at number 17. Max Christie, Maxwell Lewis. They got other guys that Lakers have drafted over the last couple of years. None of these guys have had a real impact. You were questioning J.J. Redick and saying, okay, the first time this guy's ever been a head coach, that's going to take time. LeBron's going to be 39. We had a lot of question marks going into the season. 12-8, number 6 in the Western Conference. I'll take both of those through the first 20 games. If the playoffs started today, you avoided the play-in tournament, which everybody's, hoping and praying the Lakers do. And a 12-8 record tells me that, all right, I can roll with that. Lakers must have done some things that were really, really good. Let me kind of break down for everybody. Here are some of the good things that happened through the first 20 games. Here are some of the things I think you could look at if you're a Laker fan and feel comfortable about. I think the number one story through the first 20 games has been Dalton Knecht. He's been the number one story. He's real deal. Last night was the first game since Dalton Knecht has been a Laker and since he was drafted where I can comfortably say he didn't play well. He just didn't have a good game. And there's no sugarcoating it. Just didn't play well. He played 30-plus minutes, no Austin Reeves, no D'Angelo Russell. You thought, hey, this is a game Dalton Knecht's going to get a ton of shots. He's going to be phenomenal. That wasn't the case. Utah obviously focused a lot on him. But I can't think of another game where Dalton Knecht hasn't been productive. Certainly as a starter, he's been phenomenal. I think he's been the best storyline that the Lakers have had all season long has been Dalton Knecht. And I don't even really think it's close. I think if you're talking about individual play, I think if you're talking about a specific player on this team, a rookie, Dalton Knecht, through the first 20 games, to me, he's been the biggest bright spot. Okay, some other bright spots so far through the first 20 games. AD's been a beast. Has he had some games? Sure, but AD's been a beast. I mean, you go look at his numbers, his production night in and night out. Anthony Davis has been phenomenal. And if anyone, wants to bitch and complain about Anthony Davis, save your energy, save it for some other players that are on this team because there's other players that you could be complaining about. Bron's still doing it. Is he doing it the same way he was doing it at age 28? Of course not. He's 39. He's about to turn 40. And there are nights that he looks like he's about to turn 40, but there are also nights he's still dropping 14 assists. He's still giving you 15 rebounds. There's still nights where he's giving you 25-plus points. You're getting a little bit of everything from LeBron this year, but for the most part, LeBron is still doing it and still getting those stats. Okay, let me give you another positive so far this year. JJ Redick looks like he's going to be a real coach for years to come in the NBA. I remember saying this I remember saying it early on. Early on, I talked about how no matter what, JJ kind of can do whatever the hell he wants. He could do whatever the hell he wants. First off, I think he's a common sense coach. He doesn't have to overthink things. He's kind of approaching each game. Hey, that's working. Let's roll with that. That's not working. Let's move on from that. This starter, no, I want to change that. I want to switch this out. There are a lot of things I think so far JJ Redick has just kind of very simply put has been able to let's say just kind of calm the waters when it comes to is this the right coach or is he not? JJ Redick also knows that he's going to be the coach for the Lakers well beyond most of these players are. So he doesn't have to worry about D'Angelo Russell's emotions, or he doesn't have to worry about, am I hurting Gabe Vincent's feeling? Or he doesn't have to worry about any of that stuff. The front office, the last thing they want to do is recycle another coach after 2 years. It's his first year coaching, and he looks like he knows what he's doing. So there's another positive that I would say. So I would say through the first 20 games of the year, 25% through the season, the positives for me is your record is solid, 12-8. Your place in the Western Conference is number 6. I think most people like that. Dalton Knecht is an absolute stud and is something that the Lakers haven't had for years, a real shooter, but he's more than just a shooter. He's just a rookie, and he's only going to get better as the season progresses. Anthony Davis, solid. LeBron still doing his thing, and JJ Redick looks like he's a coach for years to come. Those are the positives through the first 20 games. Now, here are the things that I would tell you would be my concern as we get to this benchmark of 25% through the season. I don't feel any better about D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, or Gabe Vincent. Those 3 guys, if you thought coming into the season, hey, is D'Lo going to be able to really be a contributor this year? And do you feel confident every single night that D'Lo goes out there? I feel good about what D'Lo is going to bring. I don't feel that way. If you do, awesome. I don't feel that way. My opinion really hasn't changed on D'Angelo Russell. I still think he's a player that the Lakers are going to try to shop around. And I still think that if they're going to go make a real run, they got to use a contract like D'Lo, some of these other contracts, a couple draft picks to go try to get another player that's going to help them this year. Rui Hachimura, he was out for a little bit, back in for a little bit. He's another player that I have no idea what Rui's going to bring night in and night out. If we thought he was going to take a leap this year, I haven't seen it yet. Sometimes we see moments, but for the most part, he's consistently been average to below average. Gabe Vincent. Gabe, every single night, after every game, you look at it, and last year he had the injury, so you were waiting for him to come in this year. And where's that dude that was in Miami? Where's that guy that playing under Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley and that Heat culture? Man, he's going to bring something to the Lakers night in, night out. That guy's going to be a dog. He's going to hit open shots. He's going to be able to spread the floor. I mean, hell, look how productive he was in that year that the Miami Heat got to the NBA Finals. They beat the Boston Celtics. He's going to be phenomenal. I don't know where that dude is, but he has not showed up yet in a Los Angeles Laker jersey. So those 3 players specifically, I'm identifying because those are guys that you felt like would be more consistent as contributors. I haven't seen it this year from those 3 players through the first quarter mark of the season. Jared Vanderbilt is still out. We still have not seen Jared Vanderbilt play a game for the Los Angeles Lakers this year. We know how much time. He hasn't played since February 1st, 2024. We're not that much longer to turn in the calendar year, and this guy's already been out for 10 months. Listen, it's not his fault. Injuries are injuries. I don't know the full backstory. I know he's had the surgeries and everything else, but that is a portion through the first quarter of the season. If you'd have told me once we got to the offseason that Jared Vanderbilt still hasn't played a game for a Laker, that would certainly be concerning. Okay, let's kind of keep going down the list. Some other stuff that are concerning through the first 20 games of the season. They're trending in the wrong direction. They're 2-4 in their last 6 games. That they got off to a 10-4 start. Again, if I told you blindly they're 12-8, 6 in the West, you're taking that all day long. But how they got there is interesting. They jumped out the gate 10-4. Everybody felt really good about that. And then you're playing a game against the Orlando Magic at home, and you're like, oh, this is great. You got Orlando, one of the best young players, and Paolo Banchero isn't playing in that game. And the Lakers have they put themselves in, they're about to go 11-4. They lose that game for some miscues at the end. They follow that up with a blowout loss against the Denver Nuggets. They follow that up with a blowout loss against the Phoenix Suns. And before you know it, they're 2-4 in their last 6 games. They're trending in a direction that doesn't look nearly as positive as it did maybe 2 weeks ago. And then the last thing that I'll mention about the 25% through the season that is a concern for me, the barometer games that I love looking at, the barometer games of, okay, that's a team you're going to face in the playoffs. All right, that's a star along with the rest of his squad. That's going to be an issue all season long. How do you look against those teams? Well, just in the last week and a half or so, you got blown out by Denver, who didn't have Aaron Gordon. You got blown out against the Phoenix Suns. At one point, you were down 29 to Denver. At one point, you were down 30 to the Phoenix Suns. And that's their first game back with KD and Bradley Beal. And then against the Oklahoma City Thunder, you played them at home. And without Alex Caruso and without, who else were they missing? Chet Holmgren. Without 2 really key pieces to the Oklahoma City Thunder, you lost that game as well. The barometer games have not gone the Lakers' way. So through the first quarter of the season, the best assessment that I can make on the Lakers is I'll take the 12-8 record. I'll take the number 6 in the Western Conference. But I'm also very cautious with this team because I don't think they're trending in the right direction. I don't think they're trending. I was given this example last night. Okay, if they're a stock right now, you're looking at their stock, you're asking yourself, is that stock on its way up or is that stock on the way down? Did that stock already kind of shoot up in the beginning? It feels like the Lakers shot up in the beginning and now they're coming back. That average is starting to take over and they're starting to go down a little bit. So I'll take the 12-8, like I mentioned. I'll take the number 6 in the Western Conference, but there are some things that are a little bit concerning when it comes to this Lakers team, and specifically, like I said, the direction that they're heading in. Okay, let's take a look at some of your comments here as I basically talk for 25 minutes straight. All right, here we go. What do we got here? Still wait for Vando to come back. That's a crazy one. Vando is the answer. By the way, listen, there's 2 different schools of people here that are in this chat. By the way, we got a lot of other stuff we're going to get into as well. So just keep that in mind. We'll talk Lakers right now, but there's other stuff we're going to get into. There's 2 schools of mind here in regards to Jared Vanderbilt. One school of mind is he's going to come back. When he comes back, he's going to help. I'm in that. I think a player like that is definitely going to help the Lakers. The second school of thought is, are you guys really still saying Vando's going to come back and help this team? Yes, I am still saying that. And I still got faith that he's eventually going to work his way back. All right, let's see a couple more of these. In Vando, we trust. Look, I'm not the only one here. Vando will sadly not be enough because we're doomed if he gets hurt or if he gets hurt. Okay? I'm no expert. But through the first 20 games, the Lakers are the same Lakers team as the last 2 years. Only difference is they're just barely getting by bad teams as opposed to losing. Okay? Last 2 years, they didn't start out to 10-4. So that's the one thing that I will tell you. That the difference is they got off to a good start. And, where they're trending is going to be the other question. AD has been superb. Facts, JJ looks legit. Lakers grade B-. Okay. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think that's probably the best way to put it. This is going to be the most important thing. Trade coming soon. Got to make a trade. They're just not in a position by any stretch that if they don't make a trade, that they're good to go. They got to make a trade. They have to. They're not really in a position. I would tell you this. Maybe this is what everything that I said came down to one thing. This team is not good enough to play with the big boys in a 7-game set in the Western Conference. I got to be honest with you. I'm not even sure who the big boys are in the West. before the season started, if you said Minnesota, I would agree with you. I don't know what Minnesota is now. Before the season started, if you had told me Denver, I'd say, yeah, I don't know. Do they have enough depth? Okay, well, they blow out the Lakers even without that depth. OKC, I know, is real deal, but everybody else is Dallas going to be there when the dust settles? You know, that's going to be something else we're going to have to figure out. All right, let's see what else we have here. Lakers are a low seed team at best and play-in team more than likely, depending on Pelinka, is another huge issue. Get a couple more of these here, and then I want to get into one thing I saw yesterday. Patrick, thank you for Patrick. Midnight. I don't even know where Patrick is, but he's listening. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate you, brother. All right, let's see a couple more of these here, and then I want to get back into what happened last night, and then we'll talk about yesterday's game as well, or what the game coming up later tonight. Ingram has that mid-game on lock. All right, Ingram's going to be one of my conversations as well, so we're going to do that. All right, let's go back here real quick. So, final conclusion on this Lakers team, at least through the first quarter of the season. Yeah, a little concerned where the team is trending. Tonight's going to be a great example. If they go out tonight and they win back-to-back, they get a W against Minnesota, all of a sudden now you're feeling like, okay, you know what? No, they're good. They're 13-8. 13-8. They, whatever hiccups that they had, they took care of. Yeah, they got away with one against the Utah Jazz, but they're in a good position, and they go from there. If they lose, you're still looking, they got a couple more road games left to go. They're going to have some tough games coming up on the road. Now you're trending closer towards, are they going to be 500 by the time we're 40 games in? You certainly don't want to see that as well. So last night, Lakers were playing Utah. Not a not a perfect game. I don't think anybody's got to sugarcoat that. You're playing the Jazz. They got one of the worst records in the Western Conference. And something really weird happened last night that we don't typically see. Okay. If you guys watched my post-game show, I gave a standing O to Utah Jazz coach Will Hardy. Lakers were very close to losing that game. Probably should have lost that game. I guess you could say should have lost. I see some people now saying, well, if Will Hardy doesn't call that timeout, then Anthony Davis would have came over and blocked it, or that's at least was one of the quotes from AD. This is what made last night's game such an odd game. Watching the game, everybody's sitting back. You're watching this lead for the Lakers just kind of start trending in the wrong direction. Little hero ball from a couple of the players, specifically Braun, taking a three when you're up one. None of that makes any sense. I have not seen something like this. And it's an error, obviously, from the Utah Jazz head coach. What happens? Will Hardy says, don't call a timeout when they get a rebound. It's a 1-point game. He says, basically, go down there and go close out the game. We're going to take our chances. We don't want the Lakers to get set on defense. We don't want them to put in personnel that's specifically to close out the game and play defense. Will Hardy basically decides, go close the game out. And we're going to figure out what happens from there. Gives the ball to one of his best scorers, one of his best guy that can create, Sexton for the Utah Jazz. Sexton turns the corner on Rui Hachimura, gets to the basket, kisses it off the glass, and it goes in. The score should be 106-105 Utah. But as he's going to the basket, Will Hardy calls timeout. Lakers got lucky. It was no question about it, an error by a young head coach in the Utah Jazz, because you're going to do one of two things. Either you're going to tell the guys to go and you're not going to call timeout, or, it's a possession where he picks up his dribble, the clock is running. That's when you're going to call timeout. I'm going to play for you guys what my second favorite head coach in the NBA said yesterday. Take a listen to how he justified what happened last night and why he called the timeout. Take a listen.
Really proud of the team's effort to be down 9. I think we're down 9 with like 6 minutes to go in the fourth. Guys dug in, made a lot of big plays down the stretch. I thought our physicality down the stretch was really good, and it put us in position to win the game. Obviously, the timeout.
Great timeout.
We like to let people go in that situation. When Collins started, he did a retreat dribble backwards, started calling timeout. It's obviously loud. The hope would have been to have a few more seconds than 2.1. But yeah, it's tough in that moment because it's tough. The last play execution.
All right, that's him really not saying much. I thought he was gonna. When I listened to it this morning, one of the things I was saying, I'm like, all right, this dude, he's got a young team. He wants to make sure that he's letting his players know that one's on me. I thought he was coming in for the L. I thought he was coming in like, oh, I'm taking that L, no question about it. Nope. He just said it was tough. He just said that it was, I guess what I thought I was going to hear is I thought that head coach was going to look at that camera straight in the eyes and say, guys, that one's on me. You guys remember this? Eric Spoelstra, this was a couple of weeks ago, called a timeout. I don't know if the game was an OT or maybe it was an OT. Called a timeout and they had no timeouts left. And they ended up losing that game because Eric Spoelstra called a timeout. Will Hardy, I don't think there's any other explanation other than I screwed that one up. I should not have called a timeout. I called a timeout. We lost this game because of me. He didn't do that. Lakers will take the W. It was one of the kind of bigger errors that you see in the NBA. You don't see that very often. That was one of the bigger errors. Lakers survive, escape, however you want to look at it, against the Utah Jazz, partially because the head coach of the Utah Jazz screwed it up. Okay, Lakers got a game tonight, and then I want to do one thing on Brandon Ingram, who is signing with Clutch Sports, and then we're going to keep it moving, and there's some other topics that I want to get into. I'll look at some of your guys' comments as we go on as well. So Lakers got Minnesota tonight. Play the Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota's 9-10. And the reason why I want everybody to kind of pay quick attention here is because last year, if you would have told me when the Minnesota Timberwolves did not, or when they lost in the Western Conference Finals to Dallas, I would have said, damn, it was a really good year for Minnesota. And they're the new up-and-coming team in the Western Conference. Watch out for Minnesota for the next 3-4 years. Anthony Edwards is young. Karl Anthony Towns is walking into his prime. They got, some good vets. They got some good role players. You got to like the direction that team's going in. So Lakers play Minnesota tonight, but it's not the Minnesota team that we were looking at before the season started. They made a trade in the offseason that I think really confused me personally. And if other people feel a certain way, then that's fine. But look how quick you can kind of change the fortunes of your team. Maybe Minnesota figures it out, and this isn't a conversation down the road. They made a trade in the offseason. I remember it going down. I'm like, yeah, I like that for New York. I don't know how I feel about that for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They traded Karl Anthony Towns, and the Timberwolves got Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo. I'm not going to get in. It was a 3-team deal. Hornets were part of the deal as well. There were draft rights, swaps, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get into that. The meat of it is this. The Knicks got Karl Anthony Towns. The Timberwolves got Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo. I don't even care who they got in return. What threw me off more than anything else is that Cat was basically their franchise player along with Anthony Edwards. They had to make a decision. And I guess for financial reasons, this is just where the NBA is today. This is where the league is today. The finances in the NBA have a lot to do with the decisions that front offices are making right now. I thought all along, if there was a trade to go down and they were going to get rid of a player, it's not going to be Karl Anthony. It's going to be Rudy Gobert. Gobert is going to be the guy that eventually gets traded. Maybe a lot of people don't want that contract, however you want to look at it. But Karl Anthony Towns, it felt like, was one of the franchise players for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm going to read you guys a quote here. Kevin Garnett, who obviously was a part of the Minnesota Timberwolves for years. Let me read to you what he said, and I think this has kind of changed the entire scope of the Western Conference and what happened in Minnesota. He said, "We just swept that whole Minnesota thing under the rug. You're supposed to trade Rudy Gobert, keep Cat, and go on. Took a step back. You didn't want to pay for the man. What are we doing?" So obviously he's talking about what happened there. A lot of the conversation is simply because of, we've talked about this before. Teams that will try to trade or make trades or whatever has to do with the first apron and the second apron. They didn't want to pay for Karl Anthony Towns. All right, put that all to the side. It seems like this team is much different than it was a year ago. Do you guys remember last week there was a quote from Anthony Edwards? Our identity right now is, I think we're soft as hell internally, not the other team, but internally we're soft. We can't talk to each other. Just a bunch of little kids. Just like we're playing a bunch of little kids. Everybody, the whole team. We just can't talk to each other, and we've got to figure it out because we can't go down this road. This is a perfect example of how quick a front office can change the trajectory of where your squad is going. Minnesota felt like that's a team that's going to be a problem for a handful of years. And if they're, I think there's always jockeying going on of what team is on the up and up, what team is kind of trending in the wrong direction. Houston, clearly a team trending in the right direction. Oklahoma City trending in the right. Memphis got healthy. They're trending in the right direction. Dallas, you were just figuring over time they're going to get back to where they were a year ago. Minnesota's a team going the other way. And here's a 9-10 squad that it felt like had everything perfectly set in order to be a headache for every team in the Western Conference for years to go. And just like that, they make one trade, one of their franchise players, and now you're looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves completely different. Lakers got the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. I have not got a chance to watch them a ton, but the pieces of how they fit, every video that I've seen of Minnesota so far this year is either Rudy Gobert not getting the ball and Julius Randle, Anthony Edwards, guys kind of looking at each other. They look like a bunch of individuals. How quick they take a player like Anthony Edwards, and they're making his life a lot harder there in Minnesota because Cat is not there. I just think that team made a bad trade. We'll see if it eventually, turns out to being a bad trade 3 months from now. But that's who the Lakers got tonight, and that's a team that, listen, I have no idea if Lakers are going to beat them or they're not. But that specific trade to me was a head scratcher. That one was, I don't really understand what the hell they were doing, and certainly now it's at least through the first 25 games starting to look like that. All right, let's see some of your comments here, and then I got some Brandon Ingram stuff I want to get into. If Sexton didn't lose that ball, game, set, match. Yeah, here's the problem too. The problem with Sexton, you basically gave that dude, you took away all his momentum. You call timeout. Now you're trying to score where, if you kind of think of the actual possession, where the ball was, where it was inbounded, he's got no momentum towards the basket. You just put him in a tough spot. So the game was over once they called timeout. All right, let's see a couple more of these here. Will Hardy is my hero. Mine as well, Patrick. Mine as well. Let's see a couple more here. We had Randall. We know who he is, and is it? This was expected with the trade. Yeah, I don't get it. I really do. By the way, that's already an issue for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Dante DiVincenzo has, I guess, expressed indirectly that he does want to start. He's already been rumored to be on the trading block, so we'll see what happens there. Here's another one. No Rudy, please. Guy has bad hands, can't catch. Well, they're not trading Rudy Gobert at this point, so just keep that one in mind. But just again, the fact that they traded Karl Anthony Towns makes no sense to me. Lakers, Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. I think it's a 5:00 tip-off again, so I'll do post-game show right after. All right, let's keep things moving here. Do you guys see this on Brandon Ingram? I saw this last night, and then I saw some people tagging me on it about Brandon Ingram and basically tagging that because he's going to sign with Clutch Sports, he's going to be a Los Angeles Laker. Everybody kind of pumped the brakes here, even though I'm a fan of B.I.'s game. I always have been. I liked him when he was with the Lakers. I think some Laker fans weren't as crazy about him. I'm a fan of B.I. The question with Brandon Ingram, well, let me read the story and then we'll get into it. So Brandon Ingram, he's going to be a free agent, unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. And there's a lot of rumors and conversations about potentially trading him. That was the talk in the offseason because New Orleans couldn't come to financial terms with him. He's going to join Clutch. Clutch, obviously, part of the Rich Paul group, LeBron's best friend. They were unable to reach a contract extension or a trade elsewhere during the offseason. So this is basically going to be now he's given the keys to Rich Paul and saying, you figure this thing out. I get it. There's a lot of times just specifically because of the affiliation with the Lakers, Rich Paul, that people start assuming, hey, is he coming to the Lakers? What's going to happen? All this stuff. There was, I thought, an interesting article on NBC Sports, and they grabbed a quote from Brian Windhorst. I want to read this quote to everybody in regards to Brandon Ingram. It says, sources told ESPN, the two sides can't agree on a contract extension, and trade talks since last summer have failed to align. Finding a place where New Orleans can send Ingram's $36 million salary and get value while also reducing salary, the Pelicans are currently in the luxury tax for the first time ever and not likely to stay there is hard enough. But finding a deal with a team Ingram will be comfortable signing a new contract has also stalled talks per sources. Okay, listen, $36 million. If I just quickly do the math, D'Lo's making 18, Rui's making 17, I want to say. There's your contract right there. The problem is, and I think this is going to be the goal of the Pelicans, at least it sounds like, they're trying to shed salary. So whatever contract that they're looking to get, I don't know if they would do another deal with the Lakers, to be honest with you, just off the Anthony Davis deal. I don't know if they're saying to themselves, no, we don't want to be in that business with the Lakers anymore. There's a world where the Lakers can make an attempt to go get Brandon Ingram, but I think there's going to be a lot of other teams in the running to go get BI. We'll see. I know this. He's trying to get paid. He's really, really trying to get paid. I'm going to go on that. I'm going to keep going on that quote that was coming. So Tim Bontemps as well, the ESPN, said the league's new collective bargaining agreement continues to cause a lot of friction for teams. Signing a player such as Ingram, a 6'8" forward who has averaged at least 20 points for 6 consecutive seasons, will require a hefty contract next summer. All but a few franchises have limited salary cap space. The teams are reluctant to hard cap themselves with a trade early in the season. The several teams in the second apron aren't even allowed to trade for him. Okay. We'll see what happens with Brandon Ingram. But I think this just kind of shows everybody this is the world that the NBA is in right now. There is such limited ability to really maneuver. And even a team like New Orleans, let's take, I don't know what the goal was with the NBA, but I'm sure one of their goals was parity. And I'm sure one of the goals for the NBA was they want teams in markets like Minnesota and markets like New Orleans to be able to hang with all the big market teams, conceptually, all the big market teams. I don't know if the CBA is really helping them. You know, I used to always have this conversation with Michael Thompson of, you know, obviously I used to do the pregame show with him when I was at 710. I used to always have this conversation. It's like, look at how well OKC has drafted. They went out and made a trade. They got rid of Paul George and they got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Look how well they've run their organization. You know what's going to hurt the Pelicans, or I'm sorry, the Oklahoma City Thunder? They're not going to be able to afford all their guys, even though these are guys that they either very wisely traded for or they drafted and developed. The Minnesota Timberwolves clearly thought they couldn't keep Karl Anthony Towns, even though that's a guy they've drafted and developed. BI was one of the guys that they traded for when they had to get rid of Anthony Davis because he wanted to leave and come to the Lakers. Here's a player that I don't know if the CBA, if the idea and the concept was to help the smaller market teams, I don't know if it's doing that. I think what the best way to help these other teams that are in these other markets is we can keep guys that we currently have. We can build a contender just based on making a couple smart trades and drafting and developing the right players. I don't know if it's helping these teams. I mean, I would love to see a guy like Brandon Ingram on the Lakers. That's a selfish thing from my perspective. But BI as your best player, I'm not crazy about. BI as your second best player, I'm not crazy about. BI is your third best player. I think you got a championship contender, and I think that's obviously what he would be with the Lakers. But getting their hands on him, I think is going to be really, really tough. So I don't think that's realistic. I don't think that's going to happen. But something to keep in mind there. All right, let's look at some of your comments here. The new NBA makes the. By the way, there's a lot of people that think this way, and I don't think you have to have wheeling and dealing like you're at a casino. And I'm not talking about that, but it feels like everybody is just nobody can move, nobody can breathe. I think this past summer and last trade deadline, where we thought we would see more blockbuster type of moves. I guess we are seeing them. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns got traded, but people are making moves because of the financial predicaments they're in, not necessarily because they really feel like they're improving their team. A lot of people here. Current CBA is terrible. They did it after the Curry contract. Mistake got them. The CBA was created to stop another super team. Yeah, but I think they're also hurting teams in other markets that I think there's a trickle effect that's backfiring on them, because I don't think what you want is this. I don't think what you want at the end of the day is I don't think you want teams like the Pelicans saying, we got to trade Brandon Ingram, arguably our best player, our most consistent player, because of the CBA. You don't want teams like Minnesota saying, we got to trade Karl Anthony Towns, a guy that we drafted and developed. We got to the Western Conference Finals last year because of the new CBA. Isn't that backfiring? I'm imagining that that's backfiring. Okay, a couple more comments here and we'll keep things moving. The threes are trash at my core. 2 and 2 pointers are better than 1 and 3 pointers. The analytics are trash. Well, the NBA supposedly is having some big ratings issues. I don't know if that's just led to the style of basketball. A lot of people think that the way the game is played today has more to do with a lot of people are frustrated with the game today, specifically because there's no creativity. A game without Reeves and D'Lo, bad defense. Thanks. AES, thank you for I appreciate you with the super chat. Thank you, and thank you for being a part of the show. Let's get another one here. AR, good morning to you. Thank you for the super, my brother. I appreciate you as well. Good morning, Slee. I know the GM is not going anywhere anytime soon. Are we still daydreaming for the perfect trade? Okay, this will be the final one, and then I'm going to get off the NBA train. I did not think I was going this long on the NBA. Rob Pelinka. Maybe one of the things I should have added on the thoughts through the first quarter of the season. One of the things I probably should have added was the thing that's become more and more clear. They have to make a trade. They have to. And there truly is not an excuse this year that I think anybody's going to listen to and be okay with. They needed to make a trade last year. They didn't do it. They needed to make a trade in the offseason. They didn't do it. And now you're running up to the final trade deadline before this is the squad that you have. Bron will be 40 by the time that trade. Bron will be 40 in 30 days, less than 30 days. Bron's going to be 40. Why have Bronny and Anthony, or why have LeBron and Anthony Davis and some of these other pieces that you have if you're not going all in? There's just kind of no point in doing that. If you think that you're going to be able to win 3 rounds in the Western Conference with the team that you have, it's a little delusional. It's not realistic. So I think, AR, to answer your question here, they're going to have to do something. And I think Rob Pelinka is going to have more growing pressure on his shoulders to obviously make things happen. Okay, something else that happened over the weekend. Happened a couple of days ago. Do you guys see that news? And I'm going to switch gears here to Major League Baseball here for a quick second. Saw the news a couple days ago. Jeff Passan had reported it. This was on the 29th, so a few days ago, maybe Friday, something along those lines. Tommy Edman, who won the NLCS MVP. Who would have thought that? Tommy Edman won the NLCS MVP for the Dodgers. Not Mookie Betts, not Freddie Freeman, World Series MVP. Not Teoscar Hernandez, not Shohei Ohtani, not Max Muncy, not Will Smith. Tommy Edman won the NLCS MVP. There was some news out there over the last couple of days that he agreed to a 5-year, $74 million contract extension with the Dodgers. And I saw a lot of tweets that were coming out. Remember, it was just a couple of days before that Blake Snell signed with the Dodgers, $180 million, and everybody's bitching and complaining that Jesus, are the Dodgers? Are they going to save any of these players for the rest of the teams out there? Let's put all that to the side. The reason why I think this deal is a big deal is because when you look at the Dodgers and you look at, well, they gave Shohei 700 and Mookie 300 plus and Yamamoto 300 plus and Freddie Freeman got this and Will Smith got that. Tyler Glasnow got 135. It's absurd. Don't get me wrong. It's absolutely absurd. And this is, one of the reasons why I think a lot of people are starting to bitch and complain more about the structure of Major League Baseball. I'm sure a Dodger fan doesn't care, and they shouldn't care. They shouldn't have to care. All the Dodger fans have to look at is just say, is the ownership making the right decisions to go out there and do everything you can to win? Are they spending their money wisely? Are they this, that? Clearly, the Dodgers are doing that. But I thought the Tommy Edman deal is a deal that is a perfect example of why the Dodgers are where they are. I don't want to hear anybody complaining about Tommy Edman signing with the Dodgers for 5 years and $74 million. I don't want to hear anybody, complaining about trying to tie Tommy Edman with the Blake Snell deal or Tommy Edman with, any of these other deals that they go out there and they make. Tommy Edman was available for anybody to go get at the trade deadline. But it was the Dodgers that went out there and got him. Remember, he was with St. Louis. It was a 3-team deal. They gave up Miguel Vargas was kind of the name that they gave up, one of the players that they gave up in that deal. Tommy Edman was coming off a surgery. He had a wrist surgery. He was coming off an ankle issue. And nobody was really looking at Tommy Edman. If the Atlanta Braves wanted to go get Tommy Edman, they probably could have went out there and got him. If the Yankees wanted to go get Tommy Edman, they probably could have went out there and got him. If the Mets, if the Padres, go think of any teams that were in the playoffs. If they want to go get Tommy Edman, they could have went and made a run at him. This is where the Dodgers, on top of everything else that they do they have ridiculous amount of money? Of course they do. Does baseball need a salary cap? I think they need a salary cap. That's not going to happen. Is the deferred payments that the Dodgers are doing right now, is it a little bit absurd? I think it's absurd. Push all that to the side. That has nothing to do with this deal. This is why the Dodgers are able to be as great as they can. Or this is why they're as great as they typically are. They're great because it's not just the big deals that they make. It's small moves like this that separate them from the rest of the pack. Tommy Edman, coming into the postseason, where was he batting? 8, 9? Was anybody really paying attention to Tommy Edman? And then all of a sudden, this guy walks in to the postseason, becomes a cleanup hitter for the Dodgers for a portion of it, was phenomenal throughout the playoffs. Like I mentioned, was the NLCS champion. The Dodgers rewarded Tommy Edman, who's a utility guy that could play multiple positions. We know that Mookie is going to be going from the outfield to the infield in 2025. So maybe Tommy Edman, there's some reports, might start at center. He might be the shortstop. They could use this guy in many different places. It's moves like Tommy Edman that I think separate the Dodgers from a lot of these other teams. Yes, they can go out there and they can put as much money on the table as anybody else. Yes, that they have a proven track record of basically guaranteeing that they're going to make the playoffs every single year. But a move like Tommy Edman is, I think, one of those moves that might sound a little quiet, might not sound like a big deal, maybe isn't the sexy move like it is for some of these other players, but I think is a big reason why the Dodgers have the type of success that they're having. All right, let me look at some of these comments here. All right, some people, the Los Angeles deferrals, they got close to $1 billion. They might be at $1 billion in deferrals. I still have no idea why that's. Yeah, I'm not going to. I'll save my bitching and complaining for when the show ends. LA deferrals. Let's go. The Dodgers are the second richest team. 75 for a 230 lifetime, not bad. Listen, I'm not telling you that contract's going to be perfect, but what I'm telling you is they need a player that can play multiple positions. He was unbelievable during the World's or unbelievable during the playoff run, and they're basically taking care of him for what he did. Maybe no one offered him $75 million for that. I'm not even talking about what they gave him, the $75 million. I'm talking about getting him at the trade deadline. I'm talking about if you were looking to improve your team at the trade deadline, they certainly found a way to do so. And Tommy Edman was just one of the people. Jack Flaherty got a lot of the pub. That's a player they went out there and got. But Tommy Edman ended up being such a key difference in that World Series run for the Dodgers. Okay, let's keep things moving here. What do you guys think tonight? Lakers, Minnesota. Got a shot here. Second of a back-to-back. All right, I'm not too crazy about it. Okay, two more things I want to do here. We'll talk a little USC football here. By the way, can I just say this about college football? Oh my God. College football. I saw this video. I'm going to play this video here real quick about college football, and I'm going to get into USC for a quick second. College football. For those who didn't like the idea of the college football playoff, 12 teams getting in, the 4 byes that they're going to have, the realigning of the conferences. College athletics is in a completely different world today. And it's never going to go back to what it was. But I've never watched more college football in my life than this year. And part of the reason that is because there's unique matchups. If you guys remember me saying it during the beginning of the college football season, I'm like, I get to watch Michigan and USC in September or October, whenever that game was. I get to watch Oregon and Ohio State go at it in October. I get basically the college football playoff, the BCS championship. I get those matchups now in September and October and November. And it's not just 2 teams in the SEC. Obviously, the realignment to the Big Ten changed everything as well, when you had the USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington go. I just think college football has never been more entertaining. And watching some of these games over the weekend, I'm going to play you guys this video. I don't know if this is what you want from college football, but I'm going to share this with you guys anyways. You had a lot of rivalry games, right? Had a lot of rivalry games. Look at this video. College Football Live is what put this together. I'll put them in my I'll make sure I give credit here. Look at all these different predicaments going on over the weekend.
Look, I be riding through my old hood, but I'm in my new hood. Same old attitude, but I'm on that new shit. They say they gon' ride me.
Okay, I don't want to play the whole thing because what's going to end up happening is I'll get copyrighted for the music, and then I won't be able to monetize the video. The point that I'm making here, or I could even mute this and just kind of keep going. The point I'm making here is every one of these rivalry games, something was going down. That's Florida. That's Florida State. You had Michigan and Ohio State. You had the situation at this is Michigan, Ohio State, a brawl that's going. Again, I'm not saying that this is what you want in every single game, but what I'm telling you is all these upsets, all these games that were going down, all these rivalries that were going down, you're going to tell me that this is not entertaining for the world of those that are college football fans, or they're not. I'm like I said, NBA is my favorite sport, not even close. Love me some baseball. I got a dog in the fight when it comes to baseball. So I'm going to watch those games all the time. Keep going down the list. The NFL is king. College football is entering this. I got to watch these games. I got to see who's in the top 12. Is Bama getting in with 3 losses? Who's coming out of the Big Ten? How far is SC and UCLA from the rest of the pack? Very far. Is Notre Dame going to get a bye? I have been so fascinated with college football for all these reasons that we're talking about. And then over the weekend, you had all these rivalry games and both sides chirping and crazy upsets and everybody now feeling like they got to plant their flag at midfield on the opposing team's turf. It's as good as it gets. I honestly, it's as good as it gets. And, unfortunately out here in Southern California, there is nothing to be watching in college football that is of substance. If you were watching, the SC Notre Dame game, cool. I was watching it too. And I was watching USC sort of in a game and then a 99-yard interception return. I was watching USC drive again and then 103, whatever it was, back-to-back interception returns for touchdown, basically the length of the field. USC and eventually lose that game. UCLA didn't do much in the Big Ten. San Diego State, my school, lost 6 games in a row, and they're just not a conversation. So there's nothing really local going on in Southern California that you could feel good about. But I read a story yesterday, and I think this says a lot about the direction. USC's in trouble. They're in trouble. They're not in trouble because they lost to Notre Dame this past weekend. They're not in trouble, or part of the reason why they're in trouble, but it's not just this. They're not in trouble because of their 6-6 record that they had this year in their first year in the Big Ten. They're not in trouble because how many schools ended up in front of USC in the Big Ten? Oregon, Indiana, Penn State, Ohio State, the Illini, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Rutgers, Washington. They were 11th in the Big Ten. They're not even in trouble because of that. Of course, that adds to part of the problem. They're not even in trouble because Lincoln Riley, through his first 39 games, has a worse record than Clay Helton through his first 39 games. I don't want to compare those two coaches, but Lincoln Riley, certainly the direction that he's taken the program is going the wrong way. The reason why USC is in trouble, I saw this article yesterday, and this, I think, this is the main reason why USC is in trouble. One of the main stories on ESPN yesterday. 4-star wide receiver, Jerome Miles, latest to decommit from USC. The reason why USC is in trouble is because there's a perception that program is going in the wrong direction. There's a perception that they can't fire Lincoln Riley because they just owe him too much money. A couple weeks ago, I had Ryan Abraham on, who covers USC for USCfootball.com. He basically said, yeah, they won't get rid of him. The buyout's going to be too much. Not they won't get rid of him because they feel like he's going to turn around the program. Not that they won't get rid of him because they feel like they've identified the right coach. They won't get rid of him because they just owe this man too much money. The perception right now around USC football, okay? This is part of the article yesterday I'm reading on ESPN. Since June 1st, USC has lost pledges from 6 ESPN 300 prospects, headlined by 3 5-star departures. They list out the players. The Trojans now hold just 7 ESPN 300 pledges in the 2025 class before the 3-day early signing period opens on Wednesday, and they list out who the players are. The point that I'm making with USC is not only did they go 6-6, not only did they lose a lot of close games, and then, you just heard Lincoln Riley with his list of excuses. Not only were they 11th place in the Big Ten in their first year in the Big Ten, they're losing recruits. Recruits are looking at USC and saying, yeah, I'm not going to that school. Yeah, no. I'm going to go to Texas Tech. I'm going to go to Texas. I'm going to go to Georgia. I'm going to go to Bama. I'm going to go to you pick whichever, Oregon. You pick whichever school that you want. What these athletes, these students are saying is, not only is your school trending in the wrong direction, not only did they struggle all year long, not only does it look like Lincoln Riley's going the wrong way with the program, we're picking up and we're leaving. It's like free agency. No one wants to come to your school. Is there a little overreaction to it? Sure. But if the front of ESPN, one of their front articles on college football is four-star wide receiver Jerome Miles, latest to decommit from USC. That's a terrible, terrible trend for USC. Obviously a proud football program, a program that is supposed to be competing in the college football playoff, that is supposed to be competing in the Big Ten. What an awful, awful year for USC, and they're certainly trending in the wrong direction. All right, let's see a couple of these comments here, and then we're going to get into a little bit of the weekend recap. I got a couple things from the weekend I'm going to get into. Georgia versus Georgia Tech game. Yep, that was one of them. Plant the flag. USC bowl eligible. Yep, 6 games bowl eligible. I'm sure they feel great about that. The highlight was after Michigan versus Ohio State post-game fight. Glad the network stuck with it and not cutting away. Yeah, there's I will tell you this. There is no question about it. The college football has an entertainment perspective that's got everybody glued to it, at least for me. Let's see what else we got here. Chip Kelly and Ryan Day choking it away again. My Trojans. Yeah, I don't know where USC is going. I go back to it. I say at the end of the day, it's okay if you lose. It has much more to do with what is the perception of your program. They got a terrible perception right now with a program at USC. All right. Got a little weekend recap here, and then we're going to call it a day. Thank you all for hanging out, by the way, for hour plus here. Post-game show, by the way, coming up tonight, right after the Lakers take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. So we'll make sure to get into it as well, and we'll talk a little bit more Lakers basketball tonight. So weekend recap. 2 things I want to get into. I'll get into the NFL. I thought I was going to get into the NFL today, but to be honest with you, I didn't have time. So we could do that a little bit later. We'll do that later in the week. I'm going to have working on a guest to get on to talk some NFL football as well. So we'll do that in just a little bit. Weekend recap. Do you guys see that spread? You got okay. Good. Listen, do me a favor here. Go look at that spread that we had at the Sliwa household. You know what? Let me just do this. I'll make everybody's life a little easier. I had some people telling me, "Hey, Al, what's the Middle Eastern food look like? What's it look like out there?" Well, let me show it to you guys here real quick. So I put this up a couple days ago. You guys want to look, see what Thanksgiving looked like? Let me show you guys a little Middle Eastern action right here. Let me get you guys here. I got you. All right, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Got a little Middle Eastern cuisine here for Thanksgiving. I'm start here, of course. Turkey. Got all this. This is like pickled olives, cucumbers, all that stuff. Dolma version, dolma. For those who know dolma, kind of the OG of the Middle Eastern world here. Some chicken, some ribs. Mashed potatoes made it this year. I wasn't sure if they were going to make it. We got mashed potatoes. This is my favorite. You got to go the yellow rice. On top of the yellow rice is curry. Look at that curry right there. You got pieces of beef, potatoes, of course, kebabs are in the house. Beef kebab, chicken kebab, lasagna, representing the Italians. Everything here. Kubba, got the whole thing. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Oh, it's a good spread. I don't know what to tell you guys. It was a good spread. Everybody's got their own, their own version here. I'm sure there's people out there. Listen, the white people food, it's going to look a certain way. I'm sure Mexicans have their own style. Everybody's got their own style during Thanksgiving. That was my style there for Middle Eastern. It was some good food there. I'm not kidding. The curry one that I'm talking about with the yellow rice, got the yellow rice in the bowl first, and then you put the curry, which has got chunks of beef and potatoes and everything else on top of it. Come on, get out of here. That's good stuff right there. Last thing I'll say on the weekend recap, San Diego State basketball. Give it up. Give it up for San Diego State basketball. They're back in the mix here. Nice win over a ranked Creighton team. A nice win over number 6 Houston. So hopefully, it puts SDSU back in the top 25. All right, my people, that's all I got for today. I appreciate you guys hanging out for an hour plus. Got close to an hour and 5 minutes here. Back on tonight, like I mentioned. Let's see what Lakers do. They got the Minnesota Timberwolves coming up tonight. Certainly a squad that looks like they're a little bit in disarray. 9-10 overall, a real chance for the Lakers to try to do some damage. So we'll see if the Lakers can do that or not. I mean, or literally Minnesota's looking at the Lakers and saying this is a great shot for them as well. So we'll see how it all pans out. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Back on tonight and then back on tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Monday, and we will get with you guys soon. Thank you, everybody.